to another DorkLair action figure review. Today I'm taking a look at the PowerCon 2023 exclusive version of the Four Horsemen Studios Demistros. Demistros is not a Mythic Legions or Cosmic Legions or Figura Obscura release. This is its own separate thing specific to PowerCon. So this is technically PowerCon's release. Their idea here is that it is your ultimate bad guy. It is your action figure that can go in and mix with any different line and just kind of conquer and dominate all your different action figure lines, whether it's Mythic Legions, G.I. Joe, Star Wars, whatever. Just kind of that old school 80s vibe of a just badass action figure for the sake of being a badass action figure. One thing to note right from the beginning is that I do have an incomplete Demistros. Mine did not come with the cape or skirt, as a number of other people who received theirs found out as well. According to PowerCon, basically the factory only got the capes into like one of the batches or something like that. And so some of them have the cape right in the box, some don't. And when they shipped them out, they didn't catch it in time to add the capes. They have the capes separately that they were supposed to add to the packaging, but they didn't catch that on all of them. Unfortunately, mine is one of them. I have put in a request for a cape. We'll see what happens. They did say they only have enough for the missing ones, so if a bunch of people just jump in there and say, hey, I'm missing a cape, and they're actually not missing a cape, then that could get a little dicey. But whether or not they do send me that cape, I do have one on the way, because I have a good friend, Jeff, and his wife, Erica, who went to PowerCon, and they hooked me up last year. They hooked me up again this year with some of the exclusives, and he's sending that out. That should be here in a couple days. So I'll do a follow-up video and just kind of show how it is with the cape. I'm sure there will be plenty of others. Toy Bro will definitely be doing a Demistros review at some point. So others will have reviews with the cape. Unfortunately, my first stab at it does not, but that doesn't mean I dislike the figure. It just means I got to wait a little while. I love this figure. The combination of the clear green plastic and the really just heavily weathered, rusted out armor is a really cool thing. Now, this clear head and the clear hands, those are the pieces that are exclusive to the PowerCon release. So if you want the clear parts, you're going to have to go through secondary market and pick yourself up a Demistros now or soon, or maybe within the next few months, maybe around Legions Con time, right? Like in November, when people have kind of forgot about this figure and they just are looking to like get the money to buy the Legions Con releases, you might find some good deals at that point. But if you don't care about those clear green parts, then there is just a regular release that's going to happen down the road at some point. I think maybe early 2024. So rest assured, you will have a chance to get this this figure, even though the standard release is not going to come with the clear head. And as you can see, it captures the light really well. The head and the materials and just the feel of it remind me of the flame effects that they've done in the past. You know, like they had the flame effects for the Figura Obscura Headless Horseman. They had the flame head or hair parts that were on the Arethyr figure, and that's kind of the feel and just the density and, I don't know, the clarity, I guess, that I get from it, which captures the light really well and reflects it through and just makes for a pretty cool thing. Like if you shine a green light through there, like I did in the opening turnaround shots in the video, it has a really cool effect. And parts wise, this is all reuse from Mythic Legions. So you have the Belphegor head, you have the pretty new, this is only the second time this collar piece has been used, but this is the collar piece from Baron Voligar 2. Really cool piece. It's got some details on the inside that I'll show after. The light's just not right for it right now. And then you have the shoulder pauldrons that came in the Alithia wave with Valak and a few other figures, I believe. Forearms are the classic sort of orc forearms. And as I'm going through this, just kind of pay attention to all the sort of green rusted details in there. It kind of reminds me of Gonks the Goblin. Like it's just so heavily weathered and rusted out. And you have one of the belts that came from the Alithia wave, the nice, detailed leather belt with the buckles and all that stuff. And the loincloth from Arethyr, which is another piece that is, similar to the collar. This piece isn't used very much. This might even be only the second time they've done that piece, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but then you have the classic upper legs, the aggressive sort of orc lower legs and boots. I do have some paint inconsistencies here. You can see how much weathering and rust is on the right foot, and there's like barely any on that left foot. So a little inconsistent there, but I think that's kind of how rust works, right? Like it's not all going to be exactly even. And so with some paint discrepancies, I think it works okay. Unlike if it were like a shiny brand new suit of armor with like paint details, you'd want them to be very even. So yeah, this suit of armor is fantastic. And then you've got the clear parts that just have that classic toy vibe. And yeah, very cool, interesting look for a figure here. And zooming out, you get an overall look of the figure, which stands at just about 6.5 inches to the top of the head, 7 inches to the top of the horns on that Belphegor head sculpt. First up, we got a couple comparisons. On the left, we have the deluxe elf with the Artemis skirt. And on the right, we have one of my all-time favorite figures in the Mythic Legions line, and that is Scaphoid. Next, a couple figures that also use translucent plastic. On the left is the green skeleton from the Storm Collectibles Mortal Kombat Motaro figure, and on the right is a kit-bashed Hagnon that uses the armor parts from the Fury Orc. A couple comic book figures. On the left is the Mafex Superman from The Dark Knight Returns, and on the right is the NECA Mirage Michelangelo from the recent Target 4-pack. And finally, a couple 7-inch figures. On the left is the Animal Warriors of the Kingdom Tiberius, and on the right is a kit-bashed Masterverse He-Man with a Monster Machine Creations head sculpt painted by Eric Miller Custom Parts. For accessories, he does come with the standard head. This is the version that will come with the regular release. This version is the one that I prefer. There's just so much paint detail going on here. And I don't know, there's just something about this one, the skull on that Belphegor head. I prefer, I love them both. Like, don't get me wrong, the green skull is awesome, but there's just something super gritty and just really cool about this head sculpt. And then to go with it, instead of having those green hands, it's got a set of just like the regular old school Mythic Legions armored hands with the horizontal hinges, just the regular gripping hands there. And he does have the big wide-bladed orc style blade, and the sort of like runes along the blade of it are painted in that same kind of toxic green color there. One other little detail that can be easy to miss is that while the blade is in that typical metallic silver, the handle is in a flat gray that gives it a nice contrast and, you know, just gives it some texture, I think. We've also got that orc spear right here that also has some of those green accents, some of that flat gray on the wrappings, and then you've got that metallic color on the handle. I don't know why, but for some reason I like this weapon with him the best. It just feels right. I mean, the runes are cool on that sword, but for some reason the ball and chain just seems to match this character for some reason. So I like that they have that piece with him. For articulation, the head is definitely going to be limited because of the shape of the head with that chin that really sticks out really far. You've got the horns on the side that are going to prevent a lot of side to side. And then, of course, you have that collar there that's going to really limit things. So, you know, you're going to have to kind of mess with it and tuck the chin under if you want him looking down a little bit. And then you can bring the chin up and over if you want him looking out. And then you can cock the head side to side, but, you know, it's going to shift things when you go left and right when that beard or that chin is down inside there. So definitely limitations due to the sculpture on that head articulation. As is typical with Mythic Legions figures, the shoulder armor is on a peg, and then you can move that around a little bit up and down to get it out of the way, and then you can bring the arm up to about horizontal position, and then you can swing the arm around. If you remove the shoulder armor, you can go all the way around with the arm on that swivel. Single jointed elbow, typical classic 1.0 is very limited in that single jointed elbow there. There is a twist at the elbow, and there's a twist at the forearm, twist at the wrist, and also a horizontal hinge on these hands, horizontal hinge on the accessory hands as well. There's a ball joint at the waist that gives him a little bit of tilt side to side. He can hunch forward and back, and of course it can twist. We've got a hinge and swivel joint at the hips, what allows him to kick forward and back and out into the splits. A thigh cut that gives ample twist there. Single jointed knee, twist below the knee, ankle rocker, and it can point down and up on that hinge, and it has a twist as well. This being pretty much one of the most popular builds for Mythic Legions figures. This is going to move very similar if you have any other 1.0 style Mythic Legions figures. And I couldn't let you go without at least a couple swaps. And here we have straight up head swap. This is the Demistros standard head on the Tibius body. And if you're wondering, how this head's going to look with your standard skeleton figures, I think it's going to look pretty darn good. And when the, the Necronominus wave comes out, this will be a great head to mix and match with those figures because there's a ton of skeletons in that wave. And since Demistros utilizes the Belphegor head sculpt, I thought it would be fun to put the Demistros armor on Belphegor. And I like this look. I think the red works really well with that rusted green armor. I was going to maybe do an orc, just like a green orc in this armor, but I didn't like the way the two types of greens clashed. So I went with this instead. And I really like what I see here. I think it would be cool to do the Fury Clan Orc as another example of someone wearing the Demistros armor, which I think is going to be a very utilized piece for customs and kit bashing. It just got such a striking paint job to it. It kind of reminds me of the blood armor in that way, and that it's just this one whole consistently colored armor suit that you could pop any head on, really. So really cool piece, very versatile for customs kit bashing. Thanks for watching, and until next time, may the Force be with you.